This is lesson 5. It's your last lesson of mastering holiday ads on a budget. And we are talking about optimizing for results. So a big thing you're going to need to understand are the key metrics so you know how to improve. First key metric we are going to cover is the click-through rate. In this particular mini course, a popular ad that is going to yield the best results is going to be an ad that either targets your best customers that look just like them, and take them from Facebook to your website, whether it's to a particular product page, the overall shop, or to an Amazon product or something of that nature. So that click-through rate would be key. That click-through rate is telling us how many people is the rate of people that went from here to there. A high click-through rate is good. That is positive. That tells us our audience and our ad are working to send people from point A to point B. The next thing is going to be the cost per click. So for cost per click, obviously with costs, we want them to be lower. So that's pretty clear, right? If you have a lower cost per click, that means your ad is performing better. Now for click-through rate or cost per click, they're going in the opposite directions, right? We want a higher click-through rate. We want a lower cost per click. The more people we have clicking, the lower our cost per click is going to be. And we want to weigh that against the benchmark for our industry. So you might look at these numbers and be like, well, I think this is too high. This is $1. Well, if that is the average for your industry, you're doing pretty good. I'm not saying you can't do better, but know that your ad isn't performing poorly. The next one is conversion rate. That is the percentage of users that perform a desired action, whether it's checkout or sign up, whatever it is. A strong campaign is going to have a conversion rate of about 10% or higher. This is going to indicate the effectiveness of your ad or your landing page. Now, I'm going to take it that a lot of people in this mini course are not going to be setting up conversion ads if they're brand new to Meta Ad Manager. That's okay. But if you're not new and you just haven't been utilizing it, that's what you need to know. The next one is cost per acquisition. So if you're running like a lead generation campaign, here's where that cost per acquisition is going to come into play. It's going to tell you how much it costs to get that lead. Now, of course, we want this to be lower. Lower for costs is always better, and it tells us the effectiveness of our ad. But again, let's say you have a very expensive product or service and you gave something away for free in order to get a lead so you can nurture it and sell to that person. Well, if you have a premium price product that the sales funnel is longer, right? You have to do a little more nurturing, a little more convincing, a little more educating to get them to buy. So it is pretty intuitive to assume that your cost per acquisition is going to be a little higher because you have a premium service. Now, if you do not have a premium service and you did a lead and your cost per acquisition is quite high compared to the benchmark, well, you got to work on your offer. I would tell you this, if it is for lead generation, that lead needs to tap into, again, not a problem that you see that they don't, but something that they feel and that resonates and is extremely clear. That will always create better conversion and it will lower that cost per acquisition. Frequency. This is a big one, and it's often overlooked. So our frequency is going to tell us how many times this ad has been delivered to our audience. So it might be 1, it might be 2, it might be 3, but that will be a really good indicator of performance. So it's typically below 3 for most campaigns. If it's higher than that and you're not seeing things that go along with it, like a good click-through rate, a good cost per click, a good cost per acquisition, a good conversion rate, then you know that that ad is continuing to be delivered to this audience and they're not following through. So you got to rework it. Maybe you got to rework the audience. Maybe you got to rework the ad creative. If you know the audience is good, meaning you're working off of your best customers or people who look just like them, then it's the ad, y'all, or the offer. And of course, there is a very juicy return on ad spend. For me, return on ad spend doesn't end in Meta. It does not end with my ad. I like to go further, right? If somebody made it all the way to the checkout process, I want to cross-sell. I want to upsell. I want to have an email that comes to them later with something that will, works off of what they already bought, that will say, oh, you need this too, right? That helps my ad spend go further and increase the lifetime value of that customer. So do not think that your ad spend stops in Meta. What are you doing afterward to get the most out of that spend? What email follow-up do you have? I mean, hell, maybe if they made it all the way through, are you then retargeting them with something else? Like, there are so many creative things you can do here. But for the literal return on ad spend through Meta, a great rate is going to be anywhere from 1.5 to about 4 being excellent. So let me give you some tips. If you have a bad, a low click-through rate, I want you to ask yourself this: is my audience good? If it's good, then let's evaluate the ad. Did my visual or my video or whatever meet the requirements that I mentioned in a previous lesson here? Was the benefit clear? Was the problem clear? Was the solution clear? Was there a strong call to action? If we have no call to action, there's no motivation to click through. So we need to make sure that call to action is extremely clear. Another thing is the headline. That headline that goes along. So when we're in Meta, you already know, you have the text above, you have the media, and then you have a headline and a button. What did that headline say? Was it concise? Did it speak to a problem? Did it speak to a felt need? That thing that they quite literally are experiencing feels visceral. It's not a problem you've made up. They clearly are dialed into that thing. What did your headline say? A good headline and a good call to action can improve your click-through, even if your copy is weak and your media is weak. Those are key. Now, of course, we want our media strong and our copy above strong, but evaluate those things. If our click-through isn't good and our audience is great, then it's our ad. Another thing, if you're not seeing great click-through rate, might be just ad fatigue. So, I mean, how often have you run ads to this audience? Let's say you're targeting your very best customers, but you have one ad for this product, one ad for that product, one ad for that product. You're bombarding them, and they're probably going to start seeing some ad blindness, meaning you're going to see the frequency for these things increase and your click-through rate go down. That's not great. So instead, what I would have done is, if instead of running an ad for 3 different ads, I would have run one ad with a carousel post. So I would do one ad that featured lots of different products. And I would likely see a higher click-through, and I would obviously then see my cost per click go down, and everything would start looking more effective. And of course, when I send them to wherever I want, if I have those cross-sells and things, I'm improving my what? My return on my ad spend. Let's say I'm a service provider and I'm targeting my best customers on Facebook. Similar thing. I mean, how often have you been running ads to these people? A great way that you can avoid some of that fatigue is just to think quite literally. How often have I sent out ads to them? What are those ads saying? Am I also emailing them? I'm also posting about it. I also have a podcast. I also have this. Like, calm down. If you want to upsell to your best customers and you're a service provider, you need to not over inundate them so much that they're not going to act. It might be worth your while to do one ad to your best customers with the offer that makes the most sense for them for a particular duration of time, and just have a very clear campaign. So this ad is running to my best customers. They're getting this email sequence, and we're talking about it during our mastermind, and that's it, right? And then you might have a second ad going to people who look like your best customers, and it's a slightly different approach, right? And that one might take a little more frequency, and that's okay. Remember, because we are trying to get the most from our ad budget and have the greatest impact, the number one tip I'm giving you in this mini course is to retarget your best people and people who look just like them. How do we do that? Again, we're going to upload an email list, or we're going to create a lookalike audience based off of people who've engaged with us in the last 365 days, assuming we've been active and good on social and not overly stagnant, and it's not just like our moms and our best friends commenting. We need our audiences to be relevant in order for them to be effective. So again, retarget and lookalike, retarget and lookalike. And we can do those things in a few different ways. There's the email, there's the website visitors, there's people who've engaged with us on social. But do those things. You will see better results, I promise. And it gets a whole lot easier to then evaluate what's going wrong. If you know you have a good audience and you're not seeing the metrics you need against your industry benchmark, then it's the ad that you've got to work on. boom, you have unlocked how to get better at this thing and improve over time. With all that in mind, do not overspend on low performing ads. Okay, monitor these things. Now, Facebook does take a while to optimize. It can take a few days. When you have a really big ad spend, that is nerve wracking, right? Let's say you have thousands of dollars on the line and you run an ad and you're like, oh my God, that click-through rate is not great. In the first 24 hours, take a breath. How bad is it, right? Because if it's like dollars over the industry benchmark, I'm going to say pause that baby. But if you're close to the industry benchmark, maybe a little above, maybe give it a day or two to see if it will go down. But again, dollars above, no, pause that sucker. Something's wrong. Maybe it's your audience, maybe it's your creative and your copy. But if it's close to the benchmark, give it at least 3 days, at least 72 hours. Again, we're not wanting dollars above. Pause that baby. But if it's close to the benchmark, reasons why you need to know benchmarks, take a breather. And the big thing I want you to do is understand what's working. So if we understand our metrics, click-through rate, cost of acquisition, return on ad spend, you can spend more dollars doing what works. You can say, oh my gosh, okay, so this lookalike audience generates super great click-through. And I can tell for, this time period that I did see sales increase. Let's say you were just doing a traffic ad. So you're not monitoring, you're not tracking all the way to the point of sale. So Facebook's not telling you your, cost per purchase basically. But you can say, okay, I did a traffic ad for this period of time. I did see sales increase. It was for this particular product, and this is the product I got more sales on. Duh, right? Well, what worked? Was it just your creative? Was it your lookalike audience? Do more of that. Perhaps you keep that audience and you format that ad in the exact same way for a different product. Maybe it's one of those things you were trying to upsell to them. So they've seen it in the cart already. And now you're going to do another ad that looks just like it, but it's for another product that they might already kind of be familiar with, that maybe they've received an email about, and now you're targeting them. What? You can scale without overspending. And the key there is to understand your return and set up the correct funnel process so that way that return on ad spend and the lifetime of your customer improves. When I say scale, it might be as simple as putting more ad dollars behind an ad. You might be like, wow, this is really performing well. Okay, I'm going to pause it. I'm going to add more money. I'm going to let it fly because I know it's impacting revenue. Speaking of increasing that budget, you need to do it a little bit at a time. We're talking 10 to 20% every 48 to 72 hours. You don't want to shock the algorithm and tank your ad results. Another powerful thing you can do, we talked about it a little bit, is A/B testing. So Meta does have an A/B testing function. You might be saying like, that's just outside my wheelhouse. Look, it has value and it can help you save money. So experiment, give it a go. You can A/B test your creative. That means A/B testing means you are testing one thing at a time. Let's say you have 2 different audiences, but the exact same ad. The copy is the same. The media is the same. The headline is the same. The button is the same, but your audiences are different. Maybe you're testing a lookalike audience off of a custom audience. This is pretty intuitive, right? My lookalike is based off of my best people. My custom audience, I've gone in, I've added the demo information, I've added the interest in hobbies, I've added the consumer behavior, and you're testing which one is more effective. That is powerful. That is powerful testing. The next one is creative. So let's say, again, we're testing one thing. Our audience might be our lookalike. Maybe it's our best people, maybe whatever it is, website visitors. It's the same, but we're going to test our ad creative. It could be a couple of different things. Maybe it's 2 different products, or maybe it is the same product, but 2 different ad approaches. So maybe you have a video that is more shocking, and maybe you have one that is, less, whatever it is. You want those things to be substantially different so that way you can figure out which one performs better. And then, of course, that A/B test will show you what's worked, and you put more money toward the thing that works. for monitoring? Obviously, Meta Ad Manager, but duh. You're going to want to use Google Analytics, right? So if you're running traffic ads, you want to know as much as you can about what's happening when they get to that point B, point A being social, trafficking them to point B somewhere on your website. Use Google Analytics to understand what is happening there during that time period of the ad. Another wonderful thing is a heat map. So let's say you're sending somebody to a landing page and your click-through rate is great, your audience is good, but you're not seeing conversion when they get there. Use something like a heat map to see what they're doing on that page and see what you can improve. Let's see, there is a tool called Hotjar that you can use to create a heat map for a landing page and see what you need to fix. All right, y'all, I'm wishing you so much success and I'm so excited for you. Be sure that you use the Excel tables that are provided with this mini course to help you plan and help you track.